Hey, welcome to our continued look at all things Kolchak. Today we're diving into the first episode of the television series, simply titled The Ripper. With a name like The Ripper, you'd think that maybe Kolchak would be investigating someone suffering from IBS, but nope, Kolchak is on the case of one of the most infamous serial killers of all time, Jack the Ripper. The episode begins like they all do, with Kolchak giving a brief voiceover of what went down, and then boom, straight into topless dancing. At least I think she's supposed to be topless, since they mostly just show her from behind. But in keeping with classic Kolchak fashion, since this woman is in a, some would say, seedy profession, that means she has to die. The killer isn't really all that subtle about what he just did either. I mean, he just casually walks out of the dressing room and is immediately found out. At least the villains in the previous two movies attempted to be stealthy at first. This guy's not even trying. I do like his pimp cane / sword though. A few nights later, there's another murder. Then we're introduced to Kolchak and his editor Vincenzo. But what I love about this is the first time you see them together, they're already yelling at one another. Glad to see things haven't changed. But what happened to New York? And where's Louise? Anyways, Kolchak gets moved to cover Miss Emily's column while she's away. And you might be asking yourself, who the hell is Miss Emily? She's one of those advice columnists who sad, lonely people write into, but just imagine Kolchak giving people advice. Dear Miss Emily, my husband only comes out at night and sleeps in a box. Lady, either he's a vampire or an alcoholic. Either way, divorce.
Miss Emily. Let it all hang out uptight. Updike. Certainly.
Honestly, if your name is Updike, uptight is the least insulting variation you're gonna get. Count your blessings, buddy. Kolchak gets a little tired of reading the letters and decides to head out on the town. In the meantime, another woman is murdered, and the Ripper really seems to hate stuffed animals. Kolchak hears the reported murder over the police radio, and when he arrives on the scene, they're already in a full-blown shootout with the guy. These cops on either side of him are basically shooting at each other. Do they know nothing about friendly fire? It also appears as though all the villains in the Kolchak universe are immune to gunfire, and they all possess super strength. The Ripper gets away, but don't worry, because Kolchak got tons of photos, except they all pretty much look like the Patterson Bigfoot footage. For some reason, Vincenzo gave the murder story to Updike of all people, but if he can't take being called uptight, how the hell is he supposed to handle women nearly being decapitated?
It was horrible. Exactly. May I go home?
Go home, Ron.
Alright Vincenzo, enough mucking about. I think it's time to put Kolchak on the story. He doesn't, but if you think that's gonna stop Kolchak, Kolchak barges in on a press briefing and learns that fellow reporter Jane Plum received a letter from the Ripper, stating what he did and would keep doing. Her paper has no intention of releasing the letter to the public, so Kolchak does his best to butter her up.
Jane Plum is fat. She talks a lot about water retention, big bones, but I have to believe the 6 or 8 meals a day with snacks in between to keep up her strength has a lot to do with it.
And then his internal dialogue just goes on to talk about how fat she is. I won't lie, but I laughed for a good 5 minutes after he said this. There's no way in hell they'd allow something like that on TV today. Jane tells Kolchak that the Ripper left a rhyme talking about kidney pie or something, so Kolchak convinces her to publish the letters under the headline, Cannibalism. Anyways, the Ripper's out with his pimp cane when he decides to check out a massage parlor. I have a feeling this won't end with a happy ending.
You can have the hot oil rub with or without the vibrator and sauna.
Well, doesn't she sound enthusiastic about her work? I hope she can find someone to cover her next shift because I don't think she'll be making it. Updike pulls up to the massage parlor and apparently all you have to do is say press and the police will just let you right inside a crime scene. Kolchak walks up next and the police are like, nice try Kolchak, but Updike is already inside upchucking. The next day, Vincenzo tells Kolchak Jane offered to meet the Ripper on his terms, which might be the dumbest thing anyone has ever done.
No kidding. Well, if I were him, I'd meet her any place but a restaurant.
Kolchak gets caught doing research into Rippers and tries to pass it off like he's helping Updike. He even makes up a story about Updike being banned from the library because he's a bibliophile, and for some reason Vincenzo kinda sorta believes him. Kolchak has a bite to eat with Jane, and God, I hope she paid for herself, and she foolishly tells him she's interviewed 19 guys already that claim to be the Ripper. It's like this woman has a death wish. Kolchak thinks this Ripper is the real Jack the Ripper, and if he is, he's likely to kill 2 more women before the night's over. I guess this fits in with the lore of Jack the Ripper supposedly killing 5 women, but didn't the last guy Kolchak reported on also kill a set number of women? Do serial killers have an issue with OCD? Kolchak decides to check out the massage parlor thinking the Ripper might return, but he acts like he's never been in one of these places before. You're not fooling anyone, Kolchak.
Hello, Carl.
Hi, Susan.
I'm Officer Cortázar and you're under arrest. Phil!
What?
Only could Kolchak go to a massage parlor looking for a story and end up getting arrested.
Phil knows I'm innocent. Listen, I don't like to watch girls.
You don't like to watch girls?
No, I don't. No, and I'm not that way either.
It's a shame Kolchak wasn't allowed to stick around and watch, because Cop Lady is in a boatload of trouble. The Ripper gets away like it's nothing because apparently all of Chicago's finest are no match for a man with a cane and a cape. Although he doesn't seem to be fond of electricity, Kolchak is convinced what they're dealing with is the real Jack the Ripper, and because of the little jolt he got, the police did manage to bring him in, though it doesn't seem to last long, because apparently he's half Kryptonian.
You know what maximum security means? Nobody goes in, nobody goes out.
Yeah, prisoner. He just broke out of maximum security.
Well, this is awkward. Kolchak has a theory that the Ripper's weakness is electricity, not because of the most recent zapping, but because a Ripper, caught in 1908, was afraid of the electric chair. Look, I'm also afraid of sitting on the electric chair, but that doesn't make me the Ripper. In the meantime, Jane does the very smart thing of meeting with another potential Ripper. Kolchak returns to the office and starts rummaging through all those Miss Emily letters because he remembered one being very odd. A woman wrote to Miss Emily about a man who lives in Wilton Park and only comes out at night. Strangely, Wilton Park is where Jane went, so Kolchak decides to speak to the woman who wrote the letter.
Never goes out in the daytime, only goes out at night.
The old woman, like most old people, doesn't really have much going on anymore and spends her time watching her neighbors apparently.
Well, he met this girl right down below there in the park.
What'd you look like?
Fat.
Fat?
Kolchak decides to check out the house where this strange man lives, and it looks kinda familiar. Almost like it could be the home of a family of monsters, if you will. Kolchak heads around back and notices an electrical box. Do you think the Ripper pays for his utilities? Next thing you know, Kolchak's buying gear from a local electrical supply shop. Kolchak returns to the house, but where did that spool of wire come from? He then connects the wire to the house and places part of it in a pond or something? I don't know what he has planned, but I think he's been watching way too many Looney Tunes. Kolchak then smashes his way inside the house, and this is the portion of the show where Kolchak wanders around somewhere spooky. A, that's the quietest tea kettle I've ever heard, and B, who the hell leaves a kettle unattended? Kolchak, the shoes? Luckily, it wasn't the Ripper, but unluckily, the Ripper just returned home. That post wasn't there when I left. What I love about Kolchak is he just hides in the closet, like he can't think of anything else. Why did Kolchak scream? The Ripper didn't notice he was there. The episode then turns into a Three Stooges bit. Kolchak falls over a railing, breaks the doorknob off the front door, and finds the body of Jane. He can also jump through windows, apparently. I didn't know the Ripper was a water type. The only problem is when the pond is drained, the Ripper is missing, and any and all evidence went up in flames, including poor Jane. The Ripper is a really fun start to the show. Making Jack the Ripper the first monster of the week, so to speak, was a great idea. However, it never is explained how he was able to live so long. It's mentioned he would be around 130 years old, but how? Does murdering 5 women somehow keep him young? At least in the 2 previous TV movies, there was an explanation as to how the bad guys were so old. Janos Skorzny was a vampire, so that's a no-brainer, and Dr. Richard Malcolm created elixirs out of the blood of young, nubile women that kept him living long after he should have been dead. But the Ripper, there really is no explanation. Also, how is he so strong and immune to any kind of firearm? I'm not looking for a deep dive into what makes him tick. I would just like a little something to explain his superhuman feats. Kolchak's reasoning for the Ripper's weakness to electricity is also kinda, huh? He figures since a Ripper was afraid of the electric chair nearly 70 years ago, that means this Ripper is probably not too fond of it either. But like I mentioned, I don't think anyone is really fond of the electric chair. His hunch also doesn't really seem to be all that accurate, since the Ripper seemingly gets away anyways. All the electricity does is knock him out for a bit, but then he's breaking his way out of a maximum security jail cell like it's made out of tissue paper. But for being the first episode of the series, having the killer still be out on the loose is definitely a choice. I have serious doubts they were ever planning on doing a sequel, so it's interesting that they went with this route. My issues with the Ripper himself are only minor, really. The main focus of the show really is Kolchak himself, and Darren is as great as ever. I laughed a lot during this one because Kolchak is a huge pain in the ass. It's like he gets a kick out of pissing people off, and when he does, he has this big shit-eating grin on his face. It's impossible not to love the guy. Now, this is going to come up a lot when I do these videos, but it's hard for me not to compare this to the X-Files. Watching Kolchak, you can really see what Chris Carter used when he started writing the show. Kolchak feels very much like Fox Mulder, a man who really just wants to get to the truth and can be a huge pain in the ass while he does it. Even Kolchak's boss Vincenzo feels like he inspired the character Walter Skinner, Mulder's boss, who always seems to have a raging migraine because of the nonsense Mulder gets himself involved with. The DNA of Kolchak is all over the X-Files. Even the Ripper sort of feels like some of the X-Files' more human monsters, like Toombs, Virgil and Canto, or Donnie Pfaster. The Ripper was played by stuntman and actor Mickey Gilbert. Unfortunately, he left us last year at the age of 87, and I don't want to make these videos downers considering a lot of the cast has since passed on, but what I found interesting with Mickey is he was still performing stunts for television as late as 2021 and began performing stunts in 1959, which is insane to think about. For Jane Plum, we have Beatrice Collin, a character actor likely best known for Marcia Sims, the roller skating waitress on Happy Days, and Etta Candy, Steve Trevor's secretary on the show Wonder Woman. She too is no longer with us, having passed away in 1999 at only 51 years old, which is way too young. The Ripper was written by Rudolph Borchardt, who will write a few more episodes of the series, and mostly did TV writing from the mid-70s through the mid-80s. Alan Barron directed the episode, and like Rudolph, would work on a few more episodes of Kolchak, and directed lots of television shows like Charlie's Angels and The Love Boat. The Ripper currently has a rating of 7.9 on IMDb. I'm probably more predisposed to liking the show just because of my love for old spooky television, so I might give this one an 8. Up next, a man returns from the dead to get revenge on the mobsters that killed him in The Zombie. I love how simple the titles for this show are. The Ripper, The Zombie, The Werewolf, They Have Been, They Are, They Will Be. Okay, maybe that last one wasn't so simple. If you've never watched Kolchak, I really recommend giving it a shot. Start with the TV movies and then go from there. I know most people these days don't like older shows or movies, claiming them to be boring, but if you just give it a chance and focus on the character interactions more so than action set pieces or special effects, I think you'll enjoy it. But what do you think about The Ripper? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you're having a great day and stay spooky!